And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jet Radio 1400. It is that time of the week. We spend a half hour with Josh Skarzinski from Stan's Garden Center. Morning, Josh. How are you today?
Can they hear us?
Hopefully they can hear us. We have been working on boosting the levels a bit here.
Boosting my levels?
Yeah.
Probably.
Boosting your level of enthusiasm, maybe. That's what you've been doing.
The level of enthusiasm is there. It may not portray by voice, but it is still there. But this is the time of year right now when I know staff-wise, we all start to get a little haggard. It's there's 70 of us, and it is a lot of prep and a lot of work. And when it gets to June, it's just it's like the last 3 miles of a full marathon. Anybody that's run that knows that it doesn't matter how good a shape you're in. The last 3 miles
you're struggling.
It's brutal. So I feel like the last 3 miles is here. Because 4th of July tends to turn the corner to a totally different pace for us.
Okay.
So in that pace, believe it or not, our focus right now for probably 50% of my entire day yesterday was already booking plastics and soil and plant material for next year. The industry has changed so much. We haven't even got to go to the trade shows and see what's new and what's out there. Like some of the catalogs haven't come in, and the reps are calling you saying, hey, you better get your order in because there's going to be a shortage of this and this and this. So like we just found out the spike, that green blade in the middle of all the memorial pots has no seed source for next year. So
and, I mean, spike, a lot of people use that.
We grew 5,400 this year alone, just us, just for for retail sale. So there's a 5,400 pots that we're not sure. Everybody's kind of scrambling to see who has seed left, things like that. So that was already where we are as far as that stands. Is we haven't even completely sold the crop, and we're already booking for next year.
Yeah.
So it makes for a nonstop constant, which for us and our staff, it wears you down a little bit. So, but my enthusiasm for the industry is definitely not declined. It's just that as you get older, I don't think you can hang in there as long.
Keep up that pace of working like a Trojan, and then you're going and touring and checking out these places, and you got enough energy to do all of it. Probably not something you can keep up perpetually.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you are.
I did see a couple things during the week that I took note of for us to talk about, and it's something that was really an aha moment for me as far as what gets done in the landscape, what unknowingly, naively, just a complete, the literal word ignorant to how a plant functions. I've seen a couple of jobs being done on a small side in the local area around where East Side stands, where I live,
right,
where grade is being changed voluntarily for no reason other than to make a different planting area, or to change the contour via maybe early spring, late fall water, whatever it is. I've seen numerous jobs around our area that have decided to just change grade around established plant material. So I'm like, that's just, it seems like a boring topic, but it's really a big aha moment as far as what you're actually doing with mulch, with soil, with grade. There is a couple commercial properties, on Route 20 that I frequent an establishment around some of these, and I kind of shake my head every year because unknowingly, I truly believe unknowingly, a property maintenance company will come in and they put 2 inches of mulch around. These particular plants are linden trees, which would be a good street tree. They're, commercial property tree, very tolerant. And they put a couple inches of mulch around that to maintain a tree ring. Okay, tree ring's a great idea. You don't have to get close to it with the mower. It's easy to mow around. Right. It's good for the plant.
It looks nice, too.
It's tidy. But the maintenance company comes in and they put a little mulch around that tree every year, and now it literally looks like a volcano where the mulch goes up. It literally, I'm not exaggerating, a 45-degree angle, and it is probably knee high. around the trunk of the linden. And the linden, you can tell if you have any kind of knowledge of tree material, arboriculture. There's your vocabulary.
I like that. I like that.
You can watch the tree every year having a little smaller leaf than it should, a little less leaves than it should, a little less vigor in the sense that doesn't look like these trees stature-wise have grown at all in 3 or 4 years. And I truly 100% believe it's caused by girdling. And the girdling is equivalent of, imagine putting a rubber band around your finger, even just slightly tight, and waiting to see how long it takes before your finger falls off.
Right.
Your finger's going to live, maybe even for the whole day, but after a while, that finger's going to fall off.
Yeah,
there's no circulation.
Discolored. Yeah.
And that's exactly what goes on when you change grade around established material. And these linden trees are dying a very long-term, slow, choking kind of death. So when you decide to keep a tree ring, which again, don't misunderstand, is a fantastic idea, it is really good for the tree and for maintenance. But when you just simply kind of, I guess you could call it lazy mulch and just add a little every year, and you get that volcano effect, you cannot ever change the grade around an established tree. There is some evergreen material in the area. I noticed a small job. I think it's just a homeowner, not a landscaper, but they have decided to create a corner bed where there is existing pines. The pines maybe have limbed up a little bit, which is common. You get a little bit of blight issues, or just a fungal disease or aging. They tend to not get the sun underneath, and they've been limbed up a little bit. And then now this particular landscape has decided that they're going to add quite a bit of soil around and then maybe plant the corner in an effect to create a bed, to add plant material, to tidy up and to decorate and landscape underneath the pine tree, which is fine. One issue you're going to have is a lot of competition for light, water, nutrition underneath. Generally, starting new beds under old established materials is extremely difficult, if not impossible, because of those things. The competition for light, water, and nutrition is the reason when you walk around in Mother Nature's landscape in the woodland area, you'll find the forest floor of densely populated, especially an evergreen, barren. You'll find just the cast needles.
Needles, right?
Maybe just in that little spot of lacking tree cover, you'll find some laurel or some ferns or something like that growing. But generally speaking, you can walk freely.
You find pine cones and needles.
Yeah, underneath dense canopy. The reason is that Mother Nature's natural cast for that area doesn't allow a whole lot of other material to grow. So in the effect of I don't like this barren look anymore. These trees have gotten older. We've lost the bottom limbs. You can walk right underneath them now. I'm going to plant a bed underneath that. Generally doesn't work. The secondary side of that is it may be 1, it may be 5 years, but that plant material is slowly being girdled by raising that bed because underneath it is densely laden roots, lots of competition. It's very dry. So the simple, easy fix, one would think, is we're just going to add, even if it's good quality soil, we're going to add quality soil and raise that soil level around that tree just a foot. That's okay, right? Just a foot. It's actually not. It's the rubber band around the finger.
Yeah.
So I've just noticed that for some reason, it's kind of turning my head. Noticeable in many, even street trees applications. They're tough. They're durable. We have some right outside the studio. There's some Zelkova trees out here. A great street tree. But if they're mulched every year, that's the rubber band around the finger. So I had this thought maybe a year ago. I'm like, when I have the opportunity and the platform of the radio, I'm going to mention. There may be half a dozen people out there that are like, oh, yeah, that's what my front yard looks like.
Yeah.
I do that every year. That's bad. All you have to do to save this tree is there's generally what we call a root flare or a taper at the base of a tree. You're supposed to be able to see that taper. If it looks like, the volcano of mulch and then a drinking straw sticking out of it has no taper whatsoever, you have changed the grade and over mulched or changed the levels so that you can't see that root flare. That root flare needs to stay exposed. That's where the life artery of all the transferred nutrition and water goes through that plant. And when you mulch it over, it's restricting that. almost all, we've talked about this, another vocabulary word, the cambium layer is that soft tissue that's right underneath that exterior gruff bark, if you will. That soft tissue, that cambium layer, like when you see things that are grafted, that's what they're actually unioning together, is that really viable, very soft, very lush tissue right underneath that heavy bark. When you put a lot of pressure on that, imagine you have a cell, microscopically it's very tiny, but if your cell was 1 foot wide and you put all this mulch around it, it only makes it 5/8 wide, if it's only 6-7 inches wide, that's restricting all that flow over a period of time. So the nutrition created by photosynthesis can't go back to the root system, and the nutrition and water pulled from the earth can't go up. So it's slowing that down. In essence, the tree would need a stent to open it up.
So the word is, as much as we maybe don't want to do it, if you want fresh mulch in your tree ring, take the wheelbarrow out there, get the old stuff out, and put new stuff down.
It's really common to want that aesthetic, which is
it looks
awesome.
great.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, that new mulch looks good. That old kind of starting to break, kind of bleached out mulch, that just happens. That's a product of wood mulch. But you're absolutely right. And I think what usually happens when you say, all right, okay, he told me I'm going to take care of this not to kill my tree, and you start peeling it back, what almost always happens is you're like, wow, look, there's 8 years of 2 to 3 inches of mulch here, and you start peeling back, it's almost like a wet phone book, and you're like, wow, there's a foot of mulch on here. You put it in the compost pile, let it finish breaking, use it for other organic matter. It makes fantastic, rich compost, and put down that nice new layer so that you can see your tree taper.
That's a great tip.
That's my random rant for the day, is my horticultural rant.
I like your rant because, I love trees. I grew up around trees, and, I know people want to have healthy trees that are attractive and look, landscape perfect, but sometimes
I think it's just the not in the know. Like I truly do not think
I think a lot of people don't know.
I think the land maintenance that is doing the one next to the facility I'm talking about are generally mowers and mulchers,
right?
And they do what they're told, not realizing the health of all those trees. I bet you this facility has 10 of these lindens, and they're fantastic. They're gorgeous, that have declined very slowly. I've watched them do it.
That's great information. By the way, our phone lines are open at 451-1400. Let's jump on the phones. You're on with Josh. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for all the useful information. I bought a prune plum tree from you a couple years ago, and this year the aphids are attacking it. And I looked it up, and they said just kind of ignore it, but I wondered if there's something I should be doing.
Absolutely. Aphids, the good news about aphids, because aphids are very, very prevalent. In a growing production facility where we grow, we monitor for aphids literally on a daily basis. They're everywhere. There's nothing you've done, nothing that Mother Nature's done, generally speaking. Fruit trees, the prunes, the plums, the cherries, all of that family is very prone to aphids because I think they're very soft-celled leaves, and they probably taste good. They're in the fruit family. So whether it's Prunus cystina, which is that purple leaf ornamental, whether it's a prune, cayenne plum, the Stanley, whatever, that whole grouping of fruit plants in the Prunus family are very, very common issue with aphids. As far as the aphid goes, the reason you see them proliferate so quickly is they're one of the few insects in the entomology world. I got all kinds of vocabulary today, Alan.
Lots of syllables.
Entomology world that actually lay eggs and give live birth at the same time. So they can go from literally 10 to 10,000 in a week. They populate themselves so quickly. So the good news is that they're soft-bodied insects that breathe through their skin. They actually don't have the typical lungs like we think of lungs, so they're very easily smothered, and the life cycle is stopped and prevented. The world has changed for what we have available to us for control measures over the counter. Imagine if you went to the store at a pharmacy and they said, you know what, we just don't sell aspirin anymore. That's what's going on in the horticulture world. So what used to be fruit tree spray that we used multiple times that the farmers still have availability to, the ingredients in fruit tree spray are still available. They have taken away the ability to buy that product. all in one, meaning fruit tree spray had captan, malathion, and carbaryl, those 3 active ingredients, all together. That's not available to you anymore, which is normally what I would knee-jerk say, just spray fruit tree spray. And it gets rid of all of your fungus and your insect issues. The replacement to that, which is where I'm going with this, is cold pressed neem oil. Okay, it's kind of nasty product to smell and to look at. It's kind of on the foul side.
Is it from neem wood? The neem tree in India?
No, I don't believe it's the tree. It's a seed.
It's a seed. Okay.
Yeah, neem is cold pressed from a seed, like grape seed is what it looks like. And it's kind of a tan color, a little foul smelling, and a little sticky. But the easiest way to get rid of the aphids is to literally. You said this prune was planted relatively recently, so it's not a large ominous tree, correct?
Right.
Yep. Just literally. Can you get a hose to the tree?
Yes.
Yes. Literally take, and not to the point where you tatter and tear all the leaves off the tree, but take a brisk stream of water and just literally hose it off. That's going to knock off all the adults. And then if you want to use a control measure, cold pressed neem oil is actually a biological organic product, and it just wards off the aphids. It's something that they don't want to deal with. They have to move about the plant. How they feed is they pierce into the center of the cell, suck out the goodness, move to the next cell. Well, not only if there is eggs still on the plant that you didn't get to rinse off, or live-bodied insects, but the cold-pressed neem oil coats them, stops the reproductive cycle, and does not allow them to breathe. This sounds horrific, but it actually stops their respiration, and it will knock down aphids. Aphids, as aggressive as they reproduce and as harmful as they can be to the plant, are very easy to control. Certain other insects like thrips are much, much harder to control. Aphids are very easy to get rid of. So hose that plant right off. Give it a shot of neem oil, and it should protect it for a couple of weeks through this time when aphids are an issue. Be careful. This is just a horticultural side note. Be careful on anything, whether it be the plum, the prune, or a house plant, to drive it with too much nitrogen. So say, this tree is planted where it gets a lot of lawn fertilizer, or you've used tree stakes thinking I'm going to get this tree to grow really quick. Driving any sort of plant with a fair amount of nitrogen to make it grow quickly makes the leaf soft, the stem soft, and makes it great feeding for aphids. So be careful not to overfeed anything that is prone to aphids, as that makes it just a richer buffet for them.
Okay. How do you apply the neem oil?
Generally, if you can get a hose to it, I use a hose end sprayer, so you can dump the neem oil right into the. We're super common in anyone I talk to that has to apply anything. I usually point out and recommend the dial-a sprayer. Dial-a sprayers do the mixing for you. So, say the label on the neem oil says, 2.5 tablespoons per gallon. You simply rotate the spray nozzle to 2.5 tablespoons per gallon, dump the neem oil directly into the reservoir, hook it to the hose, and spray away. You don't have to measure anything. You don't need to physically mix, pump the sprayer. It's just the water pressure mixes and sprays it right on. You only need to spray it to a sheen. Doesn't need to soak in the ground or anything like that. Just quick spray it, so it gets almost to a light drip, and then walk away. That's simple. Dial-a sprayer, hose end sprayer, easy as it could be.
Okay, so you can't use one of those little containers like you put Windex in?
You could, absolutely. You just need to mix that at whatever rate. So usually it's going to be per gallon. So say it says 3 ounces per gallon. I don't recall the rate off the top of my head, but you just mix that in an old gallon milk jug, and then you can spray it with your trigger sprayer. Yep. If the tree is that small, absolutely, you can trigger spray it. Whatever atomized spray sticks to the leaf till sheen, that's all you need to do.
Okay, great. We don't fertilize our yard, so.
Okay. Yep. That's just kind of a side note. Make sure not to drive it with a lot of feed, because that just improves the ability for the aphid to feed.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.
I appreciate that.
Yep. Thank you very much. You have a good day. 451-1400 is our number. Talking to Josh from Stan's Garden Center. And, it's kind of interesting talking about the trees and the tree ring and so forth and so on. Because as soon as you started talking about it, I got this impression. I thought, it seems to me he's going to talk about people doing things that don't really know what they're doing, and that is kind of what you were talking about.
Are you talking about us?
Well, yeah. Well, this show for sure we don't know what we're doing, but at least people can hear us now. But when you thinking about, I like the distinction you made between this is what it looks like in the woods around a tree, and this is what people are doing. And I think you want to be somewhere in between. You don't want everything to look like a jungle. But when you get too far going the other way to make everything look so perfectly manicured, and we don't want to have a root showing, then you start to work against yourself.
I don't know if we've ever had this discussion or not, but I throughout the years I've evolved as far as when Stan's moved to 5001 Buffalo Road, it was we literally did the amount of business in 1 year. That this is, not to do with money or anything like that, but I mean the world has changed over time. So we literally had like 7 employees, and we did for the year the amount of sales now that we will do in 1 day in the spring. So the amount
That's
of people,
staggering.
the amount of people that through my career, from when we moved, I was 10 years old when we moved to 5001 from where we used to be in the Brookside area, which we simply outgrew. And when we moved down there, I would talk to a couple of people, and this is all I'd ever done. And I went to college and come back and talk to people. Over an evolution of just talking to people about gardening, I have collected a whole bunch, like a list of analogies. So I had a customer tell me one time that they came in to chat with me because they have an issue, a problem like the aphids on a prune, and I come to get some analogies because I get it.
Yeah.
And I really didn't think about it. I do it just to try to make it, whatever it is, a baby in a bassinet compared to cuttings to whatever it is. And I always try to relate how Mother Nature does it because, let's face it, she's the best horticulturist of all.
Yes.
Things grow where they are because that's the best culture. That's the best environment. So when someone will say like, "Oh, I want to put a rhododendron out by the street next to my driveway, next to the mailbox. It's in full sun. It's gravelly soil." I'm like, "Whoa, you would never find Mother Nature planting that plant there. That's not where she wants to be." So I come out with these literally hundreds of analogies. So my wife's tried to get me to get published. And I said, "There's a million garden books out there. No one wants to read a garden book by me." And then it dawned on me like, it's all these analogies that I only do it not, and it's subconscious. It's not, I only do it so that you can relate to. Oh, now I see how that plant views the world.
Well, yeah, because we don't have your background, and so you might go, well, of course that's how Mother Nature wants to do it, and we can get in there and adjust things accordingly. But we don't know the baseline of, that's how Mother Nature wants to do it.
So you're never going to see Mother Nature dump a dump truck of soil into a wooded area and change the grade. But that's, that is just, I only gave that as a side note to like, that's where all this stuff I use the analogies so that you can picture in your mind how this plant sees the world, or how, this is what they want, this is what they don't want. So when you talk about like even landscaping a new area, say you've ripped it all out and I'm going to start over, or you have a new construction, a new house, or you moved into a new house and there's nothing there and you want something there. When people come in, the first thing they're always looking for is plant material. I want the plant material. I want the plant material. So, and I've stolen a lot of these analogies as I've traveled and talked to other people. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to use that. And like Mark, our nursery manager, he always likes to say, you want to put a $10 plant in a $100 hole. And you can get that. You understand. You want to invest your money into that bed first. So the first thing everybody comes looking for is the plants. And from a businessman's perspective, I'd be like, yeah, hey, I can fill up your truck with plants, but it doesn't behoove me to fill your truck with a bunch of plants and then have you come back and say, none of this did any good.
Right.
So the preparation, not only just in the bed and the soil itself, to put that organic matter in, to get your drainage right, to get the grade right, is to take stock, take notes, watch the area, figure out, you may be shocked when you actually have a day off and you go out there and look from the deck and be like, wow, it's 4:00. It's still sunny there. I'd have guessed it was shady. So from a true landscape architect or a good designer or whatever, they're going to ask you, 4 seasons. What's the soil like? Does it sit wet for 4 months? That's going to change the plant material. Is it full sun? Is it full shade? When you say full, what do you mean? Is it, it's very sunny. I hear this all the time. It's very sunny, but it quits at 10:30. Well, that's low angle of incidence. That's sun that goes through all of that atmosphere and it's filtered. It's not sun that's 2 o'clock.
If it's not sun that can burn me, it's not having a lot of effect, right?
Right. So, and that's where I say, is it sun that would be hot at the beach? Is it sun that would you would say, I need some suntan lotion? Is it 2 o'clock? Is it 9 in the morning? And I always say, like, if you could sit out on your back deck and have coffee and it's cool sun and then it quits, that's low, that's a shady plant. So having good stock and notes in what you have when you bring to any professional, any architect, pictures are great because the contrast, the texture, the heights, the windows, the widths, things like that. But then, when you come and chat about this, whether it be Valerie or Mark or Will in a nursery, you're probably going to get some more analogies, but come with that preparation of what that actual plant is going to live in.
Right.
Then you do your design in what fits in that. So you're going to get, say, I'm imagining, you're going to get a list of 60 plants that fit that perfect. And then you find the plant that fits that texture that you appreciate. People often say to me, like, well, what would you do there? And my rebuttal is I don't live at your house.
Right.
I don't sit on your deck and drink coffee.
Yeah.
You do. So if you hate red leaves, and I do love red leaves, then why would you sell them a Japanese maple? So that there's a whole list. It's almost like a checkbox of stuff. And the first thing is the area. Then you get the list of plants that will fit that area. Then you peel back what fits the design, the windows, the texture, and what you like. So it's almost like you see the true crime shows where they're checking people off the list. Yeah, it wasn't the husband because he has an alibi and whatever. You kind of go through that whole list and you go from 10,000 plants down to 1,000 plants, down to the ones that fit that culture, down to the ones that you like, and now you have 60 to choose from.
Right.
And then you walk around the nursery and choose. So a lot of times it's kind of backwards. Like, I want a rhododendron, but that's not what wants to live there.
Well, if I can make a metaphor. Stan's legendary garden
Can I
center.
put it in the book?
Yeah, you can.
All right. I want that in ink.
I'll use it as a blurb on the back of the book. Stan's legendary garden center. It's like a really good butcher where you go and get the best meat, and they want to make sure you cook it correctly and it tastes delicious, and you keep coming back. That's what you want. You don't want the guy that shows up once a year in the truck selling steaks out of the back of the truck. And you know the guy I mean.
That have been frozen for a year. Right?
You don't want that guy.
That guy really does not care whether you like the steak or not.
And he doesn't need you to come back.
Because he's in the next town.
So you don't.
It's really good.
So there's my metaphor for you today.
Is that going to be in the inside of the flap of the hardback?
I hope so. It's up to the publisher.
Says Alan Carpenter. Shop at Stan's because they got good fresh meat.
That's right. Yeah, and they want you to keep coming back so you can eat that delicious steak.
We truly do, and I think that's the reason that over the years, and when we moved from that other location at 3204, I even remember the phone number.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember much of anything, but I remember the phone number.
You and me both.
To 5001 Buffalo Road. I truly hope, genuinely, that some of the reason is that when you come back, it might not be that you get with every single staff member and get all the information you want every single time, but the passion and the love for the industry is that when you take something, it succeeds, and then you tell your friends that it succeed. And if it doesn't succeed, then you find out the aha moment why.
Right.
And you might get a metaphor about butchers and meat.
You might.
Or,
maybe
kids.
I'm just hungry.
Yeah. I always like to relate to kids because a lot of people can relate, like, oh, that's how they behave.
Yeah. But, sure. And you are best at ever, according to your coffee mug. So
that's just a coffee mug. It depends on the day, if to ask my child.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Alan.